All right, so I've spent a few hours trying to understand what this live stream is, but I guess I'll just start. So I'm in Bucharest, see, attending the Energy Council, the European Gas Conference, and I just thought it was important to talk about, how to communicate controversial energy topics. You agree with me that right now the energy industry really is at a pivotal time where conversations around oil and gas and even sometimes maybe nuclear energy are very tricky, because there are so many different groups and different thinking that have different opinions about these things. And because there is no I'll say, like a simplified dialogue to these conversations. It just looks like when you are for, then it means that you are an enemy to those who are against. So for someone like me who has worked in the oil and gas sector for over 15 years, I feel the need, especially because I have a technical background as well, and I'm now working in sustainability. I feel the need to really point out the fact that what we need is the ability for us to communicate these controversial topics. Controversial energy topics are going to be with us for as long as we can think about it. And if we don't make that attempt to start simplifying, we're just going to be creating more divides. So my session today, or my YouTube live today, and this is YouTube live again. Interesting. I just tried it and it works, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. So I'm going to talk about the topic communicating controversial energy topics. I have a few notes here, so I'm going to be looking to read. Um, in this season, we are actually tackling conversations that are really important, things that spark debates, a lot of it fed by misinformation. And in fact, some people are even skeptical about what is the truth or what is a lie. It is nuclear energy, fossil fuel, carbon capture. These things, these concepts require strategic communication to foster understanding and trust. It's never going to happen because we want it or because everybody can power lights in their house and then they should understand it. We're going to have to cut through the noise. But by the time I finish this simplified model, you should be able to identify the root causes of controversy. You should be able, as an energy professional working in the com space, be able to address public skepticism, and you should be able to frame your message in ways that resonates with diverse audiences. So if you know now that we live in the digital communications age, it's not business as usual. People are reading different things. In some channels, you can't even write as much, you can't even express as much. So the energy communications practitioner now has even more work to do to reach out to diverse audience. Not only oil and gas people are reading about your subject, you have a responsibility. We all have a responsibility to ensure that whatever it is that we are sharing really doesn't make meaning to, I say, even grandmothers, if I can put it that way. So the first step really is understanding the controversy. Like, so we'll take nuclear energy for example. For some, if we take example of different countries, for some it's a clean, reliable solution to climate crisis. For others, when you mention nuclear energy, it is like, oh, this is a catastrophic conversation. It leads to radioactive waste. And these two sides of the debates are correct. Yeah. But if you really understand how the mind works, because we need to move from storytelling to sense making, the debates around such conversations is a reflection of the concerns that people have. So, like fear of the unknown, there's a lot of distrust in maybe the corporations or in the government, or there's even competing priorities between all the stakeholders that are perpetuating whether we do this, we use nuclear energy, or we don't. The second thing is misinformation also plays a big role. There are a lot of media narrative and cognitive biases that people have to deal with, and these are already amplifying fears, because a lot of people don't have the deep technical knowledge or expertise that we do have. once an information is fed into the public, is that is understood at a different level. Is understood from a level of who said it first, what I heard first. If people hear a misinformation first, that's what going to form their basic foundation of that knowledge. Again, the charge is energy practitioners must make an attempt to be first on the news, especially when your organization is at the forefront of leading an initiative. You must be the first to the news. But let's go ahead. So, as energy professionals, practitioners, communicators, our role is to unpack these concerns, is to provide clarity, and is to foster constructive dialogue. You heard me say the word dialogue. It's not feeding information to the public, it is engaging in conversations. So let's explore the example of nuclear energy that I gave. So you see Germany and France, and I can use these two countries. Germany has chosen at this time to phase out nuclear energy, while France, on the other hand, continue to invest heavily in it. The difference, when you cut through the noise, is really public perception. Germany's anti-nuclear stance is stems from a deep safety concern, while in France, nuclear energy is the cornerstone of their national energy independence. So now think about your own context. What energy topic spark controversy in your region? So in Nigeria, for example, there are so many things that spark controversy. And I'm not going to focus on the Nigerian issues here, but it's to get us to start thinking. If your organization has maybe an initiative that is different and your stakeholders don't understand it, your job is to foster dialogue, because people have deep rooted concern and we have to respect that. The second thing, so I spent the first time, the first session to make you understand the controversy. You have to get into the heart of people. What is making them disbelieve what the subject is? The second part of it is addressing this public skepticism and misinformation. You've got to address it as an energy practitioner. Is not feeding your information, is addressing the misinformation, the data gap, the skeptics, is addressing what the root cause of the controversy is. So let's talk about skepticism. Skepticism is a normal part of even engaging in storytelling. And people are often skeptical about energy projects, and you wouldn't blame them, because when a small uncertainty, and if you're not following me on LinkedIn, this is the time I'll say go check on LinkedIn. I write about energy, topics as simplified as possible. And my latest one is is uncertainties. So go read it. So if when people are skeptical about energy projects, yeah, it's because truly a small uncertainty can make a big change. It can be a big risk to an energy project. It is often because, but people don't understand energy topics because of various reasons, either because they don't trust the organization involved, maybe history has proven otherwise, or they fear unintended consequences. If we don't break through the noise and say these are the possible uncertainties and the risk that we carry in this project, and we allow people to guess what the possible outcome might be, it becomes a challenge. Yeah. So imagine that you do have a project that wants to install solar panel in a community that does agriculture. And you go with your really nice idea of, oh, this solar panel, it will give you light, it will give you XYZ, you'll become like a solar farm, and you tell them all the nice things. What you don't also tell them is that they would likely not be able to use that same land for agriculture, or at least in the first phase of the project. Yeah. So imagine that an external group then comes and say, oh, despite the fact that they are promising you light, you would not be able to farm. For an agricultural community, that's a bigger issue. That's a bigger priority for them. So our ability to state all the possible risks, all the possible scenarios, is giving people the opportunities to understand the full scope of our projects. So we really start by addressing that misinformation that might happen by our not telling the story. And one powerful technique is truth sandwiching. Truth sandwiching is an interesting project where is an interesting concept of telling the truth in a way that it is understood. You start first with the truth. oh, I'm bringing this solar panel to your community, and this solar panel will indeed generate more electricity for you that will even reduce carbon emissions. Then you address the myths. But I know you are worried about your agricultural land. How would you be able to farm despite this? We will, as a company, create for you a green farming maybe initiative or a project where you would then be using hydroponics, or you would separate a particular land in the area where they will still be able to do their agriculture. And then thirdly, you reinforce the truths and you say studies have shown that communities that do have solar panel, they are able to generate electricity, which bolsters the livelihood of the people in it. And importantly, you become a hub and a trade zone of some sorts. And it creates employment for the youths, and it creates job, and it creates expertise. What you have done is that you have framed these truths, you have anchored your message with facts, and you have gently addressed possible misinformation. Now, I would leave you to try all of this in action, because it's easy to assume that things are difficult to explain, but when you try it, you have a pipeline project that is going to run through community, and this community is already lacking water supply, and here we are again bringing pipeline to them to say this pipeline must come through your community. You have to try to ensure that, number one, you tell them the truth, you back it up with facts, and you address the myths that they may have about such projects, or you might even use examples that already exist about such projects. So how do you frame for for controversial topics? Now, I've talked about the truth sandwich model. I've talked about you addressing public skepticism. I'm going to run along now about framing, that works best. Framing works best when you can connect with your audience values, regardless of the kind of stories that you are saying. So you're talking to a corporate investor, you're talking to community chiefs, you're talking to youths in the community, you're talking to environmentalists. You have to talk the language they want to understand. Their truths are different, and you have to address these truths, these different truths. So you will not be talking about ecological issues to a community of youths. You say that to the environmentalists, but when you come to the community of youth, your data or your misinformation that you're trying to address has got to be focused on what is important to this stakeholder. Now, I would like you to just think about how to take this knowledge forward. Is choose a controversial energy topic and let's discuss it. Put it on my LinkedIn page and let's discuss the true model or the truth sandwich model on how we can frame this subject to your stakeholders. If you are feeling shy about sending it to me publicly, send it to my DM on LinkedIn. Let's work together to simplify these energy controversial topics. So I'm going to end with something that is interesting, which is really how to ensure that in managing controversial topic, you are not creating a barrier, you are instead deepening, building trust, and fostering meaningful engage. Is a subject for called crisis communication. Crisis communication is an interesting concept because it really starts before a crisis. The output of a crisis communication actually happens during the crisis. But when we can address controversies before it becomes a crisis, we are steps ahead. So every organization who has not gotten their crisis communications right would find it very difficult to have controversial topics. The energy space right now has a lot of controversial topics. And it's high time we energy professionals really stand up to the truths, address this misinformation, share the sentiments when it is necessary of possible of possible public communities, but address it, reduce the barrier, enhance trust, and ensure that our stories are out there, the strength of our work is known, and we keep contributing to one of the biggest and the most important ecosystem in most industrial sector, which is to give energy to the world. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you make use of it. If you're an energy communications professionals, follow me on LinkedIn. It's Tubosan Folayon, and I look forward to supporting your energy projects. Ciao.